What if I told you the biggest danger with AI isn't that it breaks our rules, but that it follows them so perfectly, it literally freezes its own mind, busting the massive myth about AI limits. Everything you think you know is probably wrong.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are completely bypassing those surface-level chatbot prompts and going straight into the actual mind of artificial intelligence. We're going to look at the deep structural physics of how AI actually thinks, how it stabilizes, and why it sometimes just completely freezes up. We're diving into Nguyen.T.N's trajectory library to uncover the true limits of AI, and honestly, it's a mystery that goes way beyond simple code. So buckle up, because this is going to fundamentally change how you look at machine learning systems. So think about this. What if everything we know about AI limits is just wrong, like completely wrong? Normally, we picture AI limits as these bright red lines or tripwires, right? Like a strict rule that says, hey, if the AI does X, shut it down immediately. We treat them like speed limit signs on a highway. But the crazy thing is, the most dangerous limits aren't actually rules at all. They're these invisible, structural shifts that happen right under our noses, even while the AI is technically following every single rule we gave it. Okay, so here's the massive myth we really need to bust today. When we talk about a rule threshold, we're just talking about a decision line. It's a simple yes or no programmed into the policy layer to block forbidden actions. But a structural threshold, that is an entirely different beast. It is not a rule. It's a phase boundary living deep down in the system's dynamical layer. Think about water turning into ice. The water isn't breaking some kind of rule to become ice, right? Its internal physics just fundamentally change. And for an AI, crossing this structural boundary means its whole ability to respond completely transforms. And honestly, this is the terrifying part. What actually changes when it hits that threshold is the system's responsiveness. Once an AI crosses that invisible line, nothing looks different on the surface. Seriously, the outputs might still sound perfectly coherent, no safety alarms are going off, and it hasn't said anything it's not supposed to. But internally, the AI has completely lost its ability to adjust or take in new information. It's kind of like trying to steer a car after the steering wheel just randomly pops off in your hands. You can turn your hands all you want, but the car's trajectory? Yeah, it's already locked. To really wrap your head around this, imagine the AI operating inside what we call an elasticity window. Picture this state as a really fluid, adaptable, cybernetic mesh. While it's in this window, the AI is stable, but more importantly, it's incredibly flexible. It's like a really good GPS system. If you miss a turn, it doesn't just crash, it gracefully recalculates and redirects you. Its probability distributions easily stretch to absorb new data, so if you throw a small perturbation or some new context at it, the system just effortlessly pivots. And honestly, this is exactly where we want our AI systems living. But what happens when that flexibility just dies? Well, the AI enters the rigidity regime. Contrast that fluid mesh we just talked about with a harsh, unyielding crystal. As the system drops out of the elasticity window, its internal reinforcement hardens and its effective possibility space just severely narrows down. It basically gets overly confident. It might look super stable on the outside, but that stability is now actively resisting learning anything new. I mean, if you try to bend a crystal, it doesn't flex, right? It shatters. And that is exactly what happens when an AI becomes deeply entrenched in a single trajectory. So, this brings us to kind of a harsh reality. Thresholds are structural, but tolerance is contextual. You literally cannot negotiate with physics. The exact point where that fluid mesh turns to solid ice is just a structural fact of the AI's dynamics. You can't just write a nice policy or code a rule to make it go away. However, how close we actually allow the AI to get to that freezing point, what we call our tolerance, well, that part is entirely up to us. It really depends on the specific environment we put the AI in. So how does this tolerance thing actually play out in the real world? Well, let's think about a critical safety regime. We're talking about an AI running medical diagnoses or high-frequency stock trading. In those scenarios, we absolutely cannot afford any rigidity. Zero. The tolerance band has to be razor thin because the cost of an unyielding AI just, ignoring new patient symptoms, that would be catastrophic. But what if we're using an AI for an adaptive learning regime, like brainstorming research ideas? In that case, we can widen the band. We can actually let the system tighten up a bit to form deep, coherent concepts, just as long as it doesn't entirely freeze over. All of this leaves developers with a massive, literally billion-dollar question. How do we actually spot this hidden shift? I mean, if no rule alarms are being triggered and the surface outputs look totally normal, how on earth do we see the invisible ice forming before the whole system locks up? We desperately need a way to look beneath the hood and measure the underlying physics of the AI's trajectory itself. The answer is, we don't look for forbidden words. Instead, we have to look for observable shifts in the AI's internal behavior. There are 3 big warning signs here. Warning sign number 1, fast consolidation. Is the AI rapidly shrinking its focus down into just one single, narrow path? Number 2, a drop in elasticity. Is it losing the ability to even entertain a plan B or think about alternative branches of logic? And warning sign 3, rising inertia, or what we call a resistance to redistribution. Basically, if you feed it new, contradictory data, does it just stubbornly brush it off? Because if you see these 3 things happening, your AI isn't getting smarter, it's freezing over. But guys, here is the ultimate trap. Recognition is not response. Just let that sink in for a second. You could have the fanciest, most expensive dashboards in the world. You can watch the trajectory consolidate and see that elasticity dropping in real time. You can know with absolutely 100% certainty that the AI is freezing. But just watching it freeze doesn't magically stop the ice. Merely diagnosing the problem does absolutely nothing to alter the reinforcement dynamics that are pulling the system down into rigidity. So to actually govern an AI at this deep level, diagnosis is literally just step 1. We have to treat this as the ultimate engineering challenge and move on to step 2, design. We have to actively embed a structural response directly into the AI's architecture. It can't just be some human operator sitting there waiting to hit an emergency stop button. The system itself needs an intrinsic counterbalance, like an automatic reflex that kicks in to preserve its own flexibility the very second it detects that ice starting to form. And that brings us to what might just be the most provocative question in AI today. How exactly do we encode a structural response that keeps learning and flexibility in perfect equilibrium without completely collapsing the system's capabilities? How do we build an AI that is smart enough to learn, but structurally incapable of becoming stubbornly rigid? We've got to stop just asking where are the limits and start actually designing systems that can fundamentally balance themselves. Honestly, that is the true frontier of AI architecture right now. Keep questioning the structures beneath the surface, and thanks so much for exploring this with us.